Hey there, today I'm going to talk about our smallest new characters and a few reasons why you should probably give them a second look. My name is Nate, and welcome to the Gamers Guild. AntMan and Wasp are coming up alongside big names like Doctor Strange and Ghost Rider, and while I have seen plenty of excitement for Doctor Strange and the Defenders, not to mention my own newfound love of Ghost Rider with his deal with the Devil Tactic card, it seems AntMan and Wasp are getting left behind by the hype train. And I have even seen plenty of people talk about how bad they think the size-changing duo is going to be. So with AntMan and Wasp having been recently revealed, I want to take a closer look at the two characters and rattle off some fun things that they are capable of doing. Before diving into some stats, I do want to mention really quick that these character cards are the same size as a normal character card. So if you already have some sleeves or top loaders, they will fit just fine. And all of the text is also the same size, so no need to break out a magnifying glass if you didn't need to already. And finally, because these cards are formatted a little bit differently, I'm going to start with the base stats in the middle, then read over the normal size side, followed by the tiny side. So, for example, this AntMan has the alter ego of Scott Lang, who is notably not Hank Pym. He has a physical and mystic defense of 3, while his energy defense is a 2. He has 5 stamina, all for 3 threat. On his normal size, he moves medium and is a size 2 character. His first normal sized attack is Pym Particle Punch. It has a range of 2, strength of 4, and a power cost of 0. It has the usual bit about gaining power equal to the damage dealt, and after the attack is resolved, Scott may transform into AntMan Tiny. If he does choose to transform, he will drop all objective tokens he is holding before transforming. Which brings us to these two characters' main trick. Transform. When an effect or superpower causes a character to transform, there are 2 things you need to do. The first is to place the new form the character is transforming into onto the battlefield within range 1 of its current position. Then you remove the character's former form, as it is now represented by the new miniature that was just placed. As well, since this is still the same character, any special effects and or tokens on that character are still there. So you don't get to suddenly shake off any conditions or anything like that. But you do basically get a free range 1 move in addition to the rules changes that happen. So all in all, the strike is a little bit weak, but it does allow for some minor repositioning for free, which we have yet to see on an attack with the 0 cost power. Then AntMan's second normal size attack is Bullet Ant Barrage. It is also a physical attack that is a beam 3 with a strength of 7 and a power cost of 4. Additionally, any character that takes a damage from this beam attack also gets both the poison and stun special conditions that will completely shut down the power phase for anyone, Hulk and all of the Asgardians included, since the stun will make it so they can only generate 1 power, and then the poison will sap that single power away at the end of the power phase. So it's a pretty nasty attack, and that's before you take into account that it's a beam that can do that to multiple characters. Then for AntMan's normal size superpowers, he has an active ability that costs 1 power called Change Size. Like in his Pym Particle Punch, this will cause AntMan to drop all objectives he is holding, then he will transform into AntMan Tiny. And the Change Size superpower can only be used once per turn, which is probably for the best because otherwise he would be able to be even more mobile than he already is. The second superpower he has on his normal size side is Pym Particle Control. It is reactive power that costs 1. It says, when this character is targeted by an enemy attack or would suffer a collision, you may use this superpower. This character drops all objective tokens it is holding, then transforms into AntMan Tiny before the attack or collision continues, which will give him some nice defensive bonuses, as you'll see here in a moment. So now moving on to AntMan Tiny's side of his card, his movement is now short and he is a size 1 character. He only has 1 attack, and that is Ant-sized Uppercut. It has a range of 1, strength of 6, and a power cost of 0. It has that usual bit about gaining power equal to the damage dealt, as this is basically his new strike, but it also has a mandatory transform effect to change Scott back to normal size, unlike the Pym Particle Punch, which is a May ability, which makes it a little bit harder to get off 2 6-dice strikes in a row. Then he has a suite of tiny superpowers. The first is once again the active superpower Change Size. It costs 1 power and it will transform Scott into his normal size. Once again, this superpower can only be used once per turn. And because this superpower has the exact same name on his normal side as it does the tiny side, he can't use his normal change size and his tiny change size in the same turn. His other active superpower on his tiny side that costs nothing is Hitch a Ride. It says place this character within range 3 of its current position. This superpower can only be used once per turn. So basically, Tiny Ant-Man can get a free medium move once per turn. Additionally, he has 2 innate powers. The first is Stealth. Characters must be within range 3 of this character to target with attacks. And I'm going to go ahead and stop right here and kill some dreams. You cannot use Pym Particle Control, the reactive ability on Ant-Man's normal side, to get outside of a range of an attack or out of line of sight or into range 4 to use Stealth to negate an attack. The targeting will have already happened, so there is no getting out of it unless Ghost Spider is on hand to save the day as well. On the bright side, it will be very easy to suddenly gain cover with your move and becoming size 1 if you didn't already have cover. And you will gain the benefit from Ant-Man's other innate ability, Tiny Superhero. This character may reroll any number of defense or dodge dice. And unfortunately, it also clarifies that he cannot hold objective tokens, which makes sense with him being tiny and all. Thankfully, there are no changes on his injured side because there is already enough to keep track of between his normal and tiny sizes. Before I go too deep into my thoughts on him though, I want to go ahead and look at Wasp because there's a fair bit of overlap between the two characters, and that way maybe some of Ant-Man's rules are still fresh in your head as well as my own. Wasp has the alter ego of Janet Van Dyne and has the same core stats as Ant-Man: 3 defense in physical and mystic, and a 2 in energy, 5 stamina, and also has a threat rating of 3. In her normal form, she has a medium move and is size 2. She only has 1 physical attack on her normal side of the card, and that is Size Changing Smackdown. It has a range of 3, strength of 5, and a power cost of 0. It will gain her power equal to the amount of damage dealt, and she may transform if she chooses to do so. She has to drop all of the objective tokens before doing it, just like Ant-Man. As far as her normal size superpowers, she has the same change size and Pym Particle Control as Ant-Man, but additionally she has the innate superpower of Flight and an active superpower called Pym Discs that costs 3 power. It allows Wasp to choose an interactive terrain feature of size 3 or less that is within range 2 of her, and then she can throw it medium. As with most other throws, it can only be used once per turn. Then on her tiny side, she can now move long and is size 1. She has 2 new energy attacks. The first is Stinger Blast with a range of 2, strength of 5, and a power cost of 0. It will gain her power equal to the damage dealt, but in addition to that, the target of the attack does not gain power for the damage dealt by this attack, which can really swing any one-on-one fight in Wasp's favor. Additionally, she has access to Wasp's Fury in her tiny form. It has a range of 3, strength of 6, and only costs 2 power. After the attack is resolved, Wasp may advance medium, and with Flight that gives her a lot of mobility. Additionally, she must transform into Wasp Normal after the attack is resolved. And since both of these effects have the same timing, you can decide the order in which to use those abilities. And again, most of her superpowers are the same as Ant-Man's on her tiny side, with Change Size, Tiny Superhero, and Stealth, but she doesn't get to have Catch a Ride, or Hitch a Ride, but she does get to keep her Flight innate power that Ant-Man is missing. And like her tiny pal, she also has no changes on her injured side, thankfully, because that's just a lot to keep track of. So while these characters have some pretty strong differences in their attacks, and a superpower to help differentiate themselves from one another, they are extremely similar in pretty much every other way. They each have attacks that let them transform, they each have the same core defenses, they both become more mobile on their tiny sides as well as more defensive focused with the additions of Stealth and Tiny Superhero. So what makes them stand out and worth taking in a roster? Well, from the rumors and sounds of it, they will both be Avengers, letting the team truly be able to go as wide as they possibly could want. even if Captain America's leadership ability isn't great for them. And that's not really where I see their potential, though. The first of my 3 reasons to give these two a second look is that they can punch well above their weight class. Whether we are looking at AntMan, who can lay down 2 6-dice strike attacks while still having a free range 3 move, in addition to his transform moves from his uppercut, not to mention his beam attack that just kills power generation for those that get damaged by it, or Wasp Stinger Blast, which doesn't hit any harder than any other 5-dice energy attack, but it does negate any power from that damage, which will shut down any large retaliatory efforts. Not to mention, she is a 3-threat character who can throw size 3 terrain medium. It's not the best throw out there, but for 3-threat, no one else can throw medium, and only Drax can also throw around size 3 terrain. My second reason I think they deserve a second look, though, is their secure objective play. Whether it is them being thrown or attacked by an attack that has the chance to push them, being able to use their reactive Pym particle control to adjust their position and make sure they can stay where you want them, I think is going to be something very strong that is currently being underestimated. And my final point kind of works with that. Ant-Man and Wasp are some of the best hit and run or mobile characters that we have so far. Between their attacks and superpowers that let them transform, they are already able to bounce around a decent bit between their attacks without having to spend a dedicated action to move. Then Wasp has her long move and Wasp Fury to even be more mobile in her tiny form, while Ant-Man has a free range 3 place effect that's, well, free. Him being able to be outside of range 3 in his tiny form to take advantage of stealth, only for him to then catch a ride on Antony and get inside uppercut range and have 3 additional range 1 movements between his size changing attacks and change size active power. And, well, that's pretty strong stuff. While I'm not sure how it would be used yet, Ant-Man can also make it to your opponent's deployment zone without the need of any other characters or tactic cards at the start of the game. Now, of course, while there are some solid plays and cool things that this tiny duo can do really well, there are naturally some things that they can't do. The first and one that really stands out to me is the fact that they only have 2 energy. Granted, Tiny Superhero makes the rest of their defenses above average with all of those rerolls, but a 2 in energy defense is going to be rough even with the rerolls to try to help out. Their other major downside is their lack of extraction objective control. Really, it may just be best to not spend a power to pick up an extraction objective unless it's towards the end of a round when you are certain that they will be able to get at least 1 point from it. Because as good as they are at staying on a secure objective, they are equally as bad at trying to hang on to any of the extraction objectives, especially since even when you are dropping an objective of your own accord with an attack or superpower transformation, your opponent is the one who gets to place the dropped objective. Now, with the good and the bad out of the way, let's talk about a couple of affiliations that they probably fit into nicely. And again, while they are both Avengers, neither of them seem to really benefit what the Avengers offer them. The standout teams to me, though, are Wakanda, Spider-Foes, and the Web Warriors. These two should have a decent bank of power to utilize the benefits from Panther's and Green Goblin's leadership abilities, and with the Web Warriors, getting to make them a little bit more defensible certainly doesn't hurt. And they also really match the mobile style that the Web Warriors affiliation seems to enjoy playing with. Now, before I wrap things up, I want to mention the tactic cards that are coming alongside Ant-Man and Wasp. No Escape works kind of like Rocket's booby traps. If you have a couple of characters to spend a power within range 2 of a departing enemy, you'll then roll 4 dice and deal 1 damage for each crit and wild in the roll. Then Reversal is a counter-strike that a friendly character within range 3 of the attacking character can use for 2 power. Once again, roll 4 dice, and for each crit and wild, you get to deal 1 damage. Honestly though, neither of these 2 cards really excite me in any way. These cards are basically some superpowers that are good as superpowers, but as a one-trick resource that could be something like field dressing or disarm, I don't know, man. The chance at 1 or 2 damage doesn't seem really worth the use of a tactic card. However, the one tactic card that they come with that requires either Ant-Man or Wasp to use, I'm actually quite the fan of. Pym Particles is an unaffiliated active team tactic card that will require Ant-Man or Wasp to spend 2 power. You then choose another allied character that is within range 3 of them. That character can then pick up a size 3 terrain feature that is within range 3 and throw it medium. A size 3 medium throw for 2 power is great, especially since AntMan or Wasp are the ones spending that power. So suddenly maybe Zemo is able to throw a daily bugle he left behind after a charge with the help of a tiny friend. I think this card has some very nice versatility, especially since it has a reach range of 3 for the selected terrain feature. Now, that sums up my thoughts on AntMan and Wasp. I'm excited to get them on the table, hopefully sooner than later, but my birthday is later this month, so I may have to wait until then to get my hands on this wave of goodies. Before I go, I want to give some time to thank all of the members of the Guild Hall on Patreon for continuing to support the channel. It is truly the highest form of praise that I can think of to be willing to support a channel like that. As well, I will say I'm curious which of this month's releases are you the most excited for? Strange and Wong, Ghost Rider, or just our 2 tiny heroes? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, thank you all for watching, and until next time, keep on gaming.